David Curtin, they won't even come to the office.
Yes, it is. Hello, good evening. It is Rishi Sunak's fault to an extent, but it's also the fault of every single Prime Minister since Blair, through Brown, Cameron, May, Johnson, Truss, and now Sunak, who have Blair started rapid mass immigration, and it's just got worse and worse and worse until now we've got net immigration of 600,000 and gross immigration of 1.2 million coming into the country. It could be stopped very, very quickly by getting a control of the boats that are coming across illegally. But that's only a very small part of the problem. The biggest problem are student visas and work visas and the Ukraine settlement scheme, which together account for 1 million of those 1.2 million coming in. I've said from the beginning of the Ukraine conflict, we shouldn't get involved. We're giving out 200,000 visas a year to people to resettle from Ukraine. There's 600,000 a year we're giving out to students and their dependents. There should be a strict cap on that of 100,000, and that would get down to net zero immigration immediately at a stroke. I would do that if I was in the David party. Rishi Sunak could do that as well.
But David, yeah, it's easy to say that. Talk is cheap, though, because you're not in the role at the time. I mean, what would we do? I mean, I'm going to bring it to David Haig, who's an international human rights lawyer. Surely we have to take in people from war-torn countries. This can't purely be really brought down to Rishi Sunak. I take your point, David Curtin, that it could potentially, it's not just his fault and it's a succession of leaders. But David Haig, we had to take these people, didn't we, from war-torn places, surely?
Well, absolutely. I think good afternoon, Nano. I mean, I think absolutely we do need to take people. We need to take genuine migrants. We always need to genuine asylum seekers. There needs to be a fair and effective asylum process, and I mean fair and effective. We don't have that at the moment. And is it Rishi Sunak's fault? Not just his fault. It's successive governments. It's not just the Tories. If you go back to 2010 and you look at the figures then, it was highest net migration figures in 2010 when Cameron took over. It's going up and up and up. I mean, what you can blame, I think, Rishi Sunak fairly is in his short term as PM is presiding over I would say, never seen before level of complete incompetence in immigration policies, putting through policies that are effectively never going to get anywhere, particularly with the amount of time left, and I would say, as a human rights lawyer, designed to weaponize xenophobia and immigration to win votes. I mean, that's the way that I would look at it. Solely responsible, no, but definitely part of the problem.
Do you think he's weaponizing that then to win votes? What do you think, Neil Hamilton?
Well, that's exactly what Labour did, of course. That's why Blair opened the floodgates to immigration after 1997, because, as we know from polling data, first-generation migrants overwhelmingly have supported the Labour Party. And it was a deliberate policy of the Labour government, Blair and Brown, to maximise the number of people coming here. And things have got worse and worse since. All governments, as David Curtin said, since 1997, are collectively responsible for the problems that we now have. But, this Conservative government is worse than the Labour government, because at least Labour were pretty explicit in their intentions. This government has lied about it. They say they want to control migration, bring it down to tens of thousands, as Cameron said. And yet this year, as we've just seen, 606,000 people added to our population through immigration, 7 million in the last 20 years. But at the current rate, we'll add another 7 million in the next 12 years.
But we need it. But Neil, but then a lot of people came from war torn. So as you alluded to, the large number.
No, that's
of people,
not true. That isn't true. The overwhelming bulk of the migration is not from Ukraine. I have no problem with the migration from Ukraine. Of course, we have an obligation to take in people from Ukraine, a war-torn country on the edge of Europe. And because the men folk are still left in Ukraine and they're fighting, the expectation is that most of these families will, when peace is restored, if it ever is, return to Ukraine, as we've seen with the EU migration since Brexit. That has collapsed, and most of those who came here before have gone back to the EU. The problem is not migration from within Europe.
Well, David Curtin, you came up with those statistics. You said your party would wipe it out if you just stopped a load of stuff. Didn't you come up with the figures? Where'd you get those numbers from?
from the government's website, from gov.uk. So I've just looked at them before the programme. Everybody can see them. They're there. They break down immigration into different categories. There's the Ukraine visa scheme. There is the student scheme. There's the student dependent scheme. There are work visas. And within that, there's temporary work visas as well. So it basically breaks down, if you look at it, 6222, 600,000 students and student dependents, 200,000 work visas on the points-based system, 200,000 resettlement from Ukraine, and 200,000 for other reasons. So temporary workers, asylum seekers, etc. That's how it breaks down.
Those figures
very, very effectively.
So those figures exist. Dennis Moshani, you've got 10 seconds. What are you going to say? 10 seconds, so Dennis. I'm saying.
Very simply, we got rid of 500,000 European workers, and now we're recruiting in Pakistan, India, Nigeria to replace them. David Kern's quite right. We can stop every student coming in and close down about half of all our universities and put all those university professors out of work. That might be quite popular in some circles.
No, that's not going to happen. Well, listen, thank you very much to Dennis McShane, former Labour Minister for Europe, Neil Hamilton, leader for UKIP, David Curtin, leader for the Heritage Party, and also David Haig. He's an international human rights lawyer.